Hi Design Basics. I want to introduce Adobe Illustrator, so I'm going to walk you through the steps of finding the program, opening the program, and working on a MacBook. And for many of you, MacBooks might be a little bit on the new side, so just to walk you through the interface, up here, this gray bar, that's your menu bar, and then down here with all these icons, it's called your docking station. And then over here are files you have open. So what's going to happen is you want to open Adobe Illustrator. And you might see an AI icon at the bottom here in your docking station, but in case you don't, like you don't see one on mine right now, the way to find stuff on your Adobe or on your MacBook is to go to Finder, that little half face, and you're going to go to Applications, and you're going to scroll through your applications, and at the top you have Adobe Illustrator. So you'll click on that. You'll click on Adobe Illustrator CC 2018, or if yours has another year, that's fine. One thing you'll notice is that your computer and my computer might be a little different, and your version of Adobe might be different than my version of Adobe. So as you come across these little differences during like our next project, just take a breath. Don't worry about it. Things that are different are not that alarming, and there's nothing you can't problem solve in Adobe. So your opening is going to look different than mine because maybe no one's been on this computer yet this year that you're using. I've obviously been on my computer quite a bit. But either way, you will go up here to File, and you can go to New. And you'll get a pop-up window like this. And what we want to do is work on a very specific size. So over here on the present details, it says entitled. Always put your name on what you're working on, because that way I can always find it, and so can you. So just do first name, last name. You can just call this first name practice. And for your size, this is what you're going to do if you have your units here. You want to make sure your units are on inches. Your width can be 6 inches. Your height can be 6 inches. And don't feel you have to follow on with this right away. You can always come back and do this as you absorb the information. So once you open Adobe, let me just close up some stuff. You're going to get an interface that looks kind of like this. Let me make sure it all fits in my screen. So, with Adobe, up here you still have the menu bar. That's your gray area. It has File, Edit, Object, etc. On the left, you have your toolbar. In the center here, this white square, that's called your artboard. And then on the right, you have a few things happening. You have some panels and windows that have different options. So mine defaulted to open into layers, and I'll explain what those are a little bit later. But you also have your properties. And basically the properties are giving you options for whatever tool you have open on the left here. So if I cycle through my tools, you'll see my properties change, because that all is about how to manipulate different kinds of tools. And if I want to open more things over here, I'll go to Window and say I want to open Gradient. And these little windows will open and pop up on the right-hand side. So just to start in Adobe, let's go over some basic tools. This black arrow is kind of like your default tool. It's called your selection tool. It's over here in the top left. And now maybe your toolbar is one single column. It might look like this, or it might be 2 columns. Either one is fine. It's just personal preference. And this is how we edit and change and select anything we make in Adobe, this little black arrow. If you scroll down here, you're going to also see something called the rectangle tool. You can see some of these tools have little white arrows in the bottom corner. And that's because this icon covers up an area of more like multiple tools. So for instance, if I go to that little white dot and I click on it and I hold it down, I have a rectangle tool. I have all my shape tools hidden in here. So we'll go to the rectangle tool and see all the way at the bottom how I have a white square and a black stroke or frame. So, and you can also see like your arrow hovers over things, and it'll tell you both the name of something and the keyboard shortcut, and those keyboard shortcuts get really helpful. But what's going to happen is whatever I make, whatever kind of rectangle I make, this tells me what's going to look like. It's going to be a white inside and a black outline, because the fill is the color on the inside, and the stroke is going to be the outline of whatever you make. So, there we go. Basic white rectangle. And then see how it's still a bullseye? My mouse is still a bullseye. That means it's going to keep making rectangles until I tell it to do something else. So you're going to have to get in the habit of telling Adobe exactly what you want it to do. Oops. Now say I want to go back and change some of these rectangles. What I can do is I have to get out of my rectangle tool. I have to go to my black arrow that was over here in my selection tool. And you can see that letter V. That means that's the shortcut. So I'm going to hit my letter V. And now if I click on a rectangle, I can go back and I can edit it. I can double click on this white fill, change a color. I can click on this one. And if I click on that fill again, you can see I have my hues, I have my tones, I have my tints, I have my shades, I have a whole range of colors here. And I can keep clicking on different parts of this color bar. I can make this one here. If I want to get rid of the stroke, I can either click on it and make it a color, or I can hit this white square with a red line through it. That's always the shortcut for see-through. So now I don't have a stroke on that. If I want to make my square, say I want to change multiple things at once, I'm just going to draw a selection. I'm going to click my mouse and pull it to grab a couple of rectangles, and now I can change a bunch of things at once. I can hit reverse, which is a black fill and a white stroke. I can hit reverse again, and my center rectangle can be see-through, so now I can see through them. So that's a little bit about the shape tool, the selection tool, and the colors. One other fun thing that you can do is you can get customized shapes by using your shape builder tool. So for instance, let me show you if I add some more shapes here. Let's add a circle. This is probably good enough. Now, if I want to do something to these shapes, before I can just do anything to them, I have to select them. So I'm going to hit V on my keyboard, select all of them, and now what I want to do them is actually want to use my shape builder tool. And you can see how it gets grayed out with the little plus icon. So anytime I draw a little line, I'm going to build a new unique shape. You can cut through there and get that one. And if I want to build a super strange unique shape, I can do that. If I want to eliminate something, if I hold down my option key, I get a minus there instead of a plus. So I can get rid of that. And let's see, I can also get rid of this, and get rid of that. And now I have a lovely, unique, strange shape. So that's a little bit about tools, the selection tool, colors, and shape builder. The one last thing that's kind of fun that I want to introduce you to is the paintbrush. So it's pretty standard. You can just change. This one you can see the stroke is the color, not the fill. So if I want to change the color of my brush, I go to my stroke. And if I want to change the size, there's a keyboard shortcut for this. If I go to my brackets on my keyboard and I hit the right bracket, it gets bigger. If I hit the left bracket, it gets smaller. And say I don't really want to do that. Say I can also use my stroke size over here. So, whoa, huge, amazing. Say I want to go back and change the opacity of this. I can hit V on my keyboard, select here, and the opacity I can knock it down to 60. Just play around. So that's kind of, you can always change the opacity to on a shape that you have or on another fill. So paintbrush, shapes, colors, selection, shape builder. Just with that little brief knowledge, go ahead and play around. There's no way you can mess this up. You can try and make something. You can make something abstract. Just play around with the features. But play on this little artboard. Just keep filling it up with images and designs and keep trying to make stuff. And if you want to experiment with other tools, go for it. But right now, make sure you get a good understanding of those basic ones. And that's it. And then, of course, whatever you do, just take a screenshot of it and send it over to the slideshare you share with just me.